we haven't really had the opportunity to see much of an international response to the Trump administration, to the victory of Trump and everything that that implies, because the only major election that happened after was Germany. But Germany happened right after. You might be able to argue that Die Linke's overperformance in the election was at least partially attributed to people being more energized by the fear of what the AfD represents and what America represents now. It's possible, but I think for the most part, Germany's election went through kind of unaffected, much to Musk's dismay, unaffected by the American election. Canada, on the other hand, Canadian federal election polling. I mean, we've all seen the chart, you know, many times, over and over and over again, but good Lord, the lines have really closed. The Liberals are now favored to win. Look at that. The range of estimated seats won by the Conservatives, even within, I'm guessing this is within like a 5% margin of error, doesn't even come to the majority point now. So the Liberals are, at least based on the polling data, basically guaranteed to get a coalition majority, if not just a flat majority themselves. 69% probability of Liberals winning majority. Nice. 19% of them winning the most seats, but not a majority. 10% probability of the Conservatives winning the most seats, but not a majority. 1% probability of Conservatives winning a majority. Look at that, man. Absolutely historic. And it's crazy. The only two things that caused this insane rebound were Trump winning and Justin Trudeau stepping down. It's narrowed a bit, though. Yeah, but that's to be expected. Whenever you see a massive surge like this, you can expect a little bit of rebound. A little bit of rebound. Did you cover the Canadian Conservative Party's Out of Touch ad? Was this the one where they're playing golf with, like, white dinner gloves? Yep.
How's your son, David?
Well, it's been a tough few years for him. He just can't seem to get ahead.
Yeah, we had to pay for Sarah's down payment last year. Things are tough for her, too.
You know what Mark Carney says.
Come on, do you really think that a fourth Liberal term is going to change anything?
You know, I've been thinking the same thing.
Are we really going to give these clowns a fourth term? I'm voting Conservative. There you go.
Yeah, for a change.
Incredible. Vote for change. Here's two 65-year-old white men playing golf with golfing gloves on. This feels so 2005. Yeah, the Canadian Conservative Party had basically been running on a MAGA light strategy. Like Pierre Poilievre was basically doing, like, you know, MAGA but up north. Fake populist, aggressively racist, that sort of thing. Though they never committed to it as much as, you know, MAGA did. And now that Trump has won and Trump is threatening to invade Canada, it's really difficult to brand yourself in a Canadian election as the guy who's associated with MAGA. You know? They run a terrible campaign and circumstances have not been kind to them. Also, Trudeau was unpopular. Him stepping down gives Mark Carney a bit more leeway. But yeah, just playing golf. He's not charismatic enough to be a populist. That's true. Pierre isn't. You can see him speak. Boring. He just sounds like any just dusty old politician. He's not at all like Trump. It's a historic turnaround. Now, I'm going to be eating my words if the Conservatives end up winning. I really would not expect that to happen. It would be unfortunate if it did, because it's not impossible. There's no way? Oh, there is a way. It's just not likely. Oh, this is an interview format. It would signal a stupidity apotheosis. At least it would mean that I could go back to making fun of Canadians rather than begging for them to fire the missiles at us. It would be nice to go back to that dynamic. I miss the old days. It's not a Kamala situation. The systems are much different. Yeah, well, Canadian democracy is not as captured by billionaires as American democracy. It still is, but not as much. It's hard to compete with us on that front. Also, because social media is global, especially because Canada and America share a language, so Canada gets a lot of American culture, it's difficult for the same American chauvinist conservatism that propagates on social media because of billionaire spending to translate over into Canada, especially when Trump is making threats against Canada. You know? It also helps that Kamala Harris is an empty suit, right? Mark Carney, gotcha. Mark Carney is, well, he is a neoliberal, but he's not an empty suit. He does seem to have beliefs and ideas.
Thank you so much for...
Oh, that's so refreshing. Remember how Kamala Harris wasn't allowed to say anything critical about Joe Biden? And meanwhile, just the fact that he's open to building smaller houses is a great start, I know. Yeah, Canada's housing crisis is the worst in the world, at least of like real countries. I don't know if maybe it's worse in like Malta or the Maldives or whatever, but like in like large countries that we would consider big countries, like Canada's is really bad. To be clear, I am pro gun ownership in America because our country is a shit pit haven of guns anyway. There are 50 trillion guns in America. Statistically speaking, every time you leave your house, you are shot at. So in that environment, I don't want insane psycho right-wing preppers to be the only one with guns, or the only ones with guns. In other less insane countries, I'm not like a universal Second Amendment type of guy at all. If you want to get guns out of Canada or like keep the streets clean in Canada, UK, France, whatever, sure. Yeah, whatever. He is clawing the party up out of a pit. And keep in mind that Pierre has basically no campaign message. The Canadian Conservative Party's message is like, aren't you tired of woke or something? Time for a change from woke. Yeah, that's right. Like they don't even have like a narrative. Really, not a real one, I don't think. Not a substantial one. It's just it's interesting. How do you think he's handling these questions as opposed to the kind of answers Buttigieg would have given? Look, they're both neoliberals, okay? I don't think that Mark Carney is going to fix capitalism. I don't think he's going to save us. What I think he's going to do is be an effective wedge or a bulwark against America, which is what I want. I don't expect him to be a fundamental solution. What I want is for him to be like a stopgap against... How effective do you think he'll be in pushing back against Trump? Well, he has a history of showing backbone in how he responded to the lead up to the subprime mortgage crisis back in 2008. And he seems intelligent and principled, even if those principles aren't necessarily the same as mine. So I think that to that extent, he doesn't seem like as much of a sniveling. Like look at the difference between how he's talked about Trump versus how Keir Starmer has talked about Trump. He already admitted in this interview that he got Trump to shut up by threatening to crash US bonds. That's funny. Wait, really?
When Canadians want to get to know each other, they'll often come to Tim Hortons and have a coffee. There's one Canadian I haven't met yet that I've been looking forward to, Prime Minister Mark Carney. Prime Minister, thanks for doing this.
It's great to do it.
Tim Hortons' order says a lot about a person. It says a lot about their personality. You're a banker, so I'm going to guess more reserved. I'm going to guess small, black, nothing in it, an old-fashioned plain donut.
Nailed it.
All right.
Doesn't Tim Hortons suck? Also, is this content ID? This looks more like a TV show than a YouTube production.
2 of those, please. Ordinary Canadian just buying a Timmy's with his signature on the money. That's for you. Keep the change. So you've had a pretty average Canadian life. Harvard
It's produced by the DCC. Okay, then it should be public domain, right?
goalie, central banker, and then prime minister. Standard stuff.
Standard stuff. Well, you know, I've had, there's no typical Canadian life. I born in the Northwest Territories, grew up in Edmonton, and then some of those other things happened.
You end up in a lot of crises. When you were a governor of the Bank of Canada, we had the big recession. When you were governor of Bank of England, they had Brexit. You're the prime minister, we have a trade war. Is it you?
It's the other way around. I come in to fix these things. Yeah, that's...
it's not just luck.
It's not just, no, it's not just luck.
Now, of course, you're famously a central banker. How do bankers budget? Do you want to balance the budget, and or you know, do you want to maybe save some money by incorporating Canada in the Cayman Islands? How do you plan to do it?
So this is not a time to waste any money, but at the same time, you want to get the country moving. You know, we got to build millions of homes. We got to build out clean energy. We got to build...
Someone earlier said it is copyright. If it's public, then it shouldn't be. I am
build out
curious.
perhaps some pipelines. We've got to build out new trade corridors to Europe and to Asia. You spend a bit of money, you provide a lot of clarity, and then what happens is the private sector comes in real scale. We can give ourselves, Mark, way more than Trump can ever take away.
Is it time for us to say enough with this sharing everything with the states? I mean, you dealt with Brexit. Is it time for a Canuck it? Should we just say Canuck it?
Well,
Knock off. We're doing our own
in
thing.
some respects, you know, Trump, you got to take him seriously, like take him literally and seriously. And so when he says the thing about our sovereignty,
Gonna make you the 51st state. Quite frankly, you're the governor.
Very
he
good.
doesn't call me that.
What
He
the
doesn't
hell did
call
you
me
say
that.
to him? Because before all this, he was saying it's the 51st state. Quite frankly, they're very weak. You're going to call him the prime minister.
Should I take it as a sign of positive polarization that the CBC is doing interviews like this where they're just like mocking Trump directly? I guess they've probably done that before. I don't know. It seems kind of nice that that's the tone of the engagement, you know? Like it's not even taken, there's none of the like faux centrism or whatever. Like when you're looking at PBS, like, you know, Trump could personally molest and then shoot a Palestinian kid and PBS would probably write about it like, you know, controversies flared as, you know, divisive new Trump act startles nation, you know, just some shit like that.
The governor, and then you had a phone call with him, and he's like, "The prime minister's not that bad. He's very smart. I'm looking for." What did you do? You have like new Polaroids of him? I don't want to see him, but do you have them? What the hell did you say to him?
Well, one of the things, look, he respects strength, and
Yeah, but what'd you say?
well, first
Now,
off-
some people said that
First
we
off,
have
no.
American bonds, and that you maybe threatened to sell those off to kind of hurt the American dollar. And is there any truth in that?
I couldn't possibly comment, but that's like
Recently, at one of your rallies, a lady.
Inter wants a low dollar. Yeah, but Trump also wants low inflation. You know? And if a pullout from the treasury bonds means an increase in the yield, means an increase in the rate of inflation, you can't have both? Isn't that contradictory? Yeah, a little bit. Just a little bit. You can artificially deflate the value of a currency without being explicitly inflationary in like theory. I don't know if you could do that in practice. Like, it's theoretically possible, but you're talking about two numbers that are so heavily correlated. I don't really think it's just in terms of rhetoric, man. Referring to Trump as the biggest problem that Canada has, I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing the results of tomorrow's election. Unless he loses, then I'm going to be mad as hell. Then I'll be upset. But, you know, what are you going to do? What if the bloc sweeps? Québécois supremacy? What's that video? It's now? Joe Biden? Kamala? Me pronoun? Quebec? Where's that? Where's that video? Barbecue?
T'es woke, toi. Toi, t'es un woke left. Tu supportes les trans pis les prenants, toi. Veux-tu dire mes prenants? Mes prenants? Québec. Français. Barbecue. Go Habs, go. Bleu pis rose. Toi, c'est quoi tes pronoms, hein? Vas-y, dis-moi tes pronoms. Joe Biden. RuPaul. Je vais prier pour toi.
It's so fucking good, man. Does this really only get posted a year ago? I feel like this has been a part of my this has been a part of the lexicon for it feels like a decade. This is actually the only good, not racist part of Quebec culture. Oh, this probably isn't the original video, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how long it's been out. All right, so anyway, what we're praying for is a Bloc Québécois sweep, okay? That's what we're hoping for. Or something. Type shit.